came here for. I hope all of you enjoyed the movie. I really did. I know some of you may have seen it prior to this, but I think it was really good.
Was
And
Bob
tonight we
Jack?
have as our guest the Raven Bookstore, and representing the Raven as a longtime bookseller, as she describes herself, is Kelly Barth, and she will be our guest this evening. And probably some of you know her or have seen her at the store. I hope so. Um, and what we're going to do this evening is we're going to start out with a few questions that I have, and we'll chat back and forth with Kelly on those questions. And at any time, if you guys want to jump in with any questions of your own or any comments of your own, please do so in the chat as we usually do. And we should have some more time at the end as well. And since the group's not terribly large, maybe by then we can open it up so we don't have to type in the chat, and we can just ask questions and go from there. So let me begin with this. First, I really want to congratulate Kelly and Danny and the whole crew there for having a very long-standing independent bookstore that's very successful here in Lawrence. And one of the things from the movie was the relationship between the customers and a great bookstore. So the Raven is very successful. I'm sure that is equally contributable to the fact that it's a great bookstore and the fact that we have a pretty great Lawrence public that supports it. So, Kelly, if I can ask you to chat a little bit about the relationship between your store and your clientele.
Right. I would say yes, we've had success as a bookstore, but really the Lawrence community has saved us and nourished us many times through lean periods. Specifically, I can mention a few times. Those of you who remember the Pat, Katie, and Mary Lou Wright era, they were the original founders who opened the store in 1987. I started in 1997, the year that Borders moved into a building 500 yards from our store. And at the time, Lawrence had, oh gosh, I know of at least two other bookstores. Terra Nova, I don't know if you all remember, anyone remembers Terra Nova, that was where the Roost is now, and Adventure Bookstore that was on, I believe it was on the corner of 8th and Mass. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I frequented both of those places.
Yes.
And when Borders announced they were moving into that big spot on New Hampshire and 7th, those stores began to say, well, we're out. Pat and Mary Lou had been open for 10 years at that point, and they felt they were just getting started, and they were both very involved in the community, knew a lot of people, had their hearts in the store. And on the day that Borders opened, the Raven had the biggest sales day they had ever had, and that was in September of 97. Everyone turned out to support the store. Many people said that they would go over to Borders and look at a book that they maybe wanted in a section that we couldn't keep tons of books in, and they would come over and order it from us. So we would not have survived many times without the love and support of the Lawrence community. We love our customers. We've had people who've devotedly shopped for years. Another crucial time for us was during COVID. And I believe Hello Bookstore focused quite a bit on COVID,
Correct.
the pandemic and the effect it had on them. And uh, it did on us as well, but it had sort of a strange effect on us. So um, we didn't quite know how to respond, as did many people. The last big thing that we did, Louise Erdrich was here in March of that year. We had had a big event with her over at Haskell. We had a big signing, and we were all feeling nervous. Should we be wearing, we saw people start wearing masks, thought, should we be wearing masks? Should we protect Louise? We didn't know what to do. It was the last big event I remember at all where we were in person with others. And lots of people turned out. Louise is an amazing novelist, and a great person. And so it was a great evening, but that was the end of in person. And so we began to just sort of reassess what we were going to do. And what it amounted to was we became essentially a book warehouse. We shut the doors. People began ordering online. We started what we called mystery book packages, where you could order a book package for someone else with maybe a general theme genre, and just say, I want to, give somebody a gift for $50. But then we started online book sales. I mean, we had sold online before through the website, but very little. We were all pretty technologically challenged at that point. We had Danny Kane as our relatively new owner, and we had a couple of new youngish employees who just immediately hopped in and transformed us into an online shop, and our sales went through the roof. So where other companies and businesses were really struggling, we actually thrived. It was a very strange experience. We had lots of orders. We had delivery start. And people just kept buying. And I'm not going to explain why. I think, yes, people were at home doing what you do at home, and reading is one of those things. And we just really did so well during COVID, and it allowed us to rethink our location. So we went from this tiny little bookstore on the corner of, not the corner, the middle of the 7th block between Massachusetts and New Hampshire, and were able to move right onto Massachusetts, which had been sort of I think, a pipe dream for a while. And then when we moved there, we took all these loyal customers, and then people who had never seen us before, didn't even know that there was such a place, started walking down Mass Street and right into the store. And so we developed then another huge group of loyal followers, and the age range of our customers really broadened. We now have a really healthy customer base in people in their 20s and 30s, which when Pat and Mary Lou first opened, we may have had, but their customer base sort of aged with them. And now we have a wide range of customer ages and very diverse customer base. So, but it's always you all that have kept us going. I mean, we would not have survived if people hadn't valued a place where you can get what you need, and where you can have a conversation with people who read so much their eyes are going, and your eyes are going and ours are going, and we just have conversations at the store that you can't have anyplace else. And it's been Lawrence, Kansas, primarily, even though our customer base did expand when Danny had some social media splashes about Amazon, resisting Amazon, and resisting online ordering in general, but mainly with Amazon because they can sell things at such a loss. People really, people in Lawrence are smart and they figured things out very quickly. And we love you for it.
Let me interrupt just for one quick question, because Kay asked a question. Do you still do online ordering?
Oh yes, yeah.
Okay.
And we still do deliveries. I mean, during COVID, we delivered a lot. We had cars going out regularly. We now only deliver 1 day a week, which is Wednesday afternoons. But we do online orders, either pick up in the store, deliver within the city limits, or mailing. Yeah. So yeah, it's still a very healthy part of our business.
That's terrific. Yeah, I've worked for a lot of other industries, and it was almost every industry. There's a degree of independent versus giant or giants, and in most of the ones I've worked for, independents succeed fairly well because of things they can offer that the other people can't. Which
Right.
kind of leads me to my other question, and I think you guys do this so very well. How much do you feel the contribution of loyalty or the business aspect of it is increased by your author signings and readings and your author talks and things that you do? Because I know you do a lot of that.
We do. Yeah. I mean, back in the day, in-person readings were at the Raven were primarily mystery authors, and we would have enormous numbers of people come out, and the store was so small that we often moved the venue somewhere else, and it would become so chaotic that we had to have people have numbers in order to know when they could get in line to get their book signed. And those days have gone and changed. However, and so we still have events in the store, but the market and the the desire for those types of in-person meetings has shifted a little bit. But there are genres and people. Genres in terms of romance is a new genre for us, and it's huge. We filled an event center off of 2440. I can't remember the name of the event center. You probably will know, those of you. With three with three romance authors. We had more than 100 people there. I would say more, closer to 200 people there, which was like the old days. We had Hanif Abdurraqib, who is a Black author he's just got an open heart, and he spoke last night at Liberty Hall, and we sold books there, and again, huge crowds. So yes, those kinds of events help us and help we often partner with the library, help us maintain that connection to you all as customers. The publishers can see that this is a viable thing. Publishers too started limiting the amount of money they gave for authors to go on tour. Lots of authors have started arranging their own book tours because the publishers just aren't willing to pay the money to do it anymore. It's not profitable for them. But we still have some amazing events with people who are often, it's new authors, it's emerging authors who are just getting started, and you have the opportunity to sit and hear people with debut novels, ask them questions. And so yes, it's a wonderful place for people to connect. Yes, with
Yeah,
often, like I said, now with emerging authors. Yeah,
that transition makes my next comment kind of works right into it because working for the library, you have a library whose whole deal is free books. You have a
right.
bookseller whose whole deal is selling books. And yet you guys have a terrific relationship with the library and work really well together. And I guess, not only, you know, as you said, providing venues and cooperating. And my guess is, and I don't know too much about how the library functions it, but I'm sure they're able to contribute financially to bringing some of the authors here. They unlike our foundation group, they have a budget. Um, so I'm sure that helps it, but it seems to really work. And what I've been amazed at isn't just some of the newest authors, which we have had, but some of the authors of terrific renown that cooperatively you guys have brought here that
Right.
friends of mine in bigger cities are jealous of.
Well, right. And the I have to mention KU, the other big player for us
Yeah,
is that we can get partners through the library and specific departments at KU. They have brought many speakers to the area, many authors that have just drawn crowds from beyond the Lawrence area and even into the four-state area surrounding. And so we have this lovely partnership with so many different groups who have, yes, money. The hall center, we can be the bookseller, the library, we can be the bookseller. And so it's a really great symbiosis for us. And uh, we just have a little square and we just take it, have books will travel, we go wherever we need to and just become a little mobile bookstore, which works great for us. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Oh, I was going to ask, obviously, local authors and are a big part of what you've done. I've read most of Professor Kristalka's books, and he's a guy
Right.
here, but they're always available because you guys have them, and you're at every situation where he speaks, so that we can get those books. So having that, what do smaller publishing houses, smaller distributing houses, does that have anything special to a local store? Or does that give you a broader reach? Or does that make any difference one way or the other with you guys?
Well, it's as long as they can make it easy for us to get the books and sell them, we do love working with smaller publishers. And it allows especially someone like Leonard who has a great mystery series to be in our, as you said, be in our store. And um KU Press is or University of Kansas Press, I should say, is also a small publisher per se. And as long as we can keep those books in, um, and it gives the small presses and us the ability to, um, yeah, give people the option, not just the big players, the big publishing dogs, but the smaller places to have a voice and to give local authors a chance. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna, the university press, a lot of people think of those as, means to publish dissertations, but they publish a lot more than that.
They
And
do, yeah.
yeah, so that's terrific. You touched on it earlier, and I'll ask the difficult question. Um, there's not a cozy relationship between probably any local bookstore and a seller like Amazon. But do you guys see that totally adversarially, or do you just feel that, somewhere in the great universe, there is a way that both of them can coexist? Or, quite honestly, or is it basically kind of adversarial that you're constantly fighting up against that with your marketing and whatever?
Well, I would say, yeah, it's an adversarial relationship. Um, for us, they can, like, as I said, they can sell at such a loss, that it is not good for author, it is not good for bookseller. Um, and it's really, if someone wants to self-publish, there are other ways to do that. There are other venues for doing that. And I would say I hate to say this, but I would say it is adversarial.
Yeah.
It's a monster operation that does not benefit many people, including their workers. It benefits a few people at the top of the organization, I would say.
Okay, on that kind of, and in a question that had to be asked, on that kind of negative note, we'll get back to more
Right.
positive stuff. Do
Yeah.
you guys have any other questions? I'm kind of talked about some of the stuff we had I discussed with Kelly earlier. Any questions you guys have about it? I know, you probably have, or many of you are probably good customers as well of both the library and of the bookstore. But anything that you wanted to ask about it, or any things you're looking for that might be things you can ask Kelly about? We have a very quiet group out here. My assumption is everybody's happy with your service, Kelly.
I
And
hope.
I think
We
that's
love you.
probably true. Yeah. Are there things that you look for that you have trouble getting there, if any of you are shopping there or whatever, that you're not looking for? Nope. We have all happy campers. Go ahead.
The cats. They're on all the bookmarks. And can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, a couple of us who worked at the store had long wanted a cat. It was not something Pat and Mary Lou thought much about, but Heidi Rock, when she bought the store in 2008, um, a couple of us began to work on her. Said it would be awfully nice if we could have a kitty in this store. And already, other stores in town had started having store pets. I know Love Garden Sounds they were ahead of us with some kitties. Although I never understood how they could have cats just lying around. Some of the music that was coming out of those speakers, I'd think if my cat at home would be ripping out his hair, but they just seem to be, the personality to handle it. And so we worked on Heidi, and we um, visited the Humane Society and looked, and we kind of narrowed it down and found two kitties who were I don't know if the Humane Society still has Cattopias. I think since they've done the big remodel, there isn't necessarily a need for Cattopia. I'm not sure. I don't know if anybody knows, but Cattopia was a room where they put cats who could be social with each other in the same room, so they weren't in little kennels by themselves. And we went into Cattopia and found two kitties up at the top, a carpeted square together. And we thought, well, if they can coexist in a little carpeted square in the Humane Society under somewhat stressful conditions, they could probably coexist in our store. So we brought them to the store. They were originally named BB. BB was the little black girl, and Max, a big big tiger boy. So we brought them in, and people seemed to love them, and they were both fairly tolerant, especially the boy, fairly tolerant of being in, again, I have cats, and I cannot imagine having them tolerate being in a bookstore with the door opening and shutting and people coming in and out and people, manhandling them and drooling on them. And they just, people love those cats. So we had a little contest, a little naming contest for them, and decided on Dashiell Hammett for the boy. So Dashiell, and Nio Marsh, Nio for the little black girl. And Nio has since retired. She's living with a former employee, and it's hard on them. And so they do work hard for their money. And she's quite old. We got them in, I believe, 2010. So Dashiell is at least, I mean, they estimated that he was, I can't believe these numbers are right, but they estimated that he was 3 when we adopted him, which would make him 18. I don't know if that's accurate.
Possible.
He doesn't
Certainly
look like an
possible.
18-year-old cat, and he's still fairly healthy. But he's still there, and when we moved them to the new store, that was a bit of a drama and trauma, but they had a whole back room that they had not had before. And still, we can watch. Dashiell has a favorite spot in the front of the new store on one of the little swivel chairs we have in the little front nook right off of Massachusetts. And the sun hits it there in the morning. And he will curl himself in one of those chairs, and we can see people just walk by and see him and walk immediately into the store. So he worked really hard for his money. They brought lots of people into the bookstore. Truly. They have earned their keep for sure. And they just, especially, and Niall was so funny. During events, she would saunter up to the microphone and twine herself around the mic stand and through the legs of the reader, or she particularly liked men with beards, and she would crawl up. So who knows what her past had? We don't know, but she would crawl up on their chest and just adhere to them through the entire event. And yeah, they just had such personalities. Yeah, they are so much a part of the store now. They're inextricable. Yeah.
Oh, you had a question.
I had a question on a very different topic.
Yeah.
So the Raven has been open long enough that when it first opened, there was no such thing as an ebook.
That's right.
Was there a period where it was felt that was impacting sales of physical books? Or
yeah, I mean, I remember seeing Oprah. I think it was on one of her shows, or I remember her talking about a Kindle. Again, Amazon developed this very easily produced and purchased electronic book device. And I remember thinking at the time, ooh, Kindle. I kept thinking of fire and book burning. And I was, at the time, I was really concerned and thought, oh, this is world changing. And I remember Oprah saying, I don't want to read a book on a device. I've read enough. I have to spend enough time on my device as it is. I don't want to have to read that way. And I remember thinking, well, I hope other people feel that way. But over time, I think that has been less of a concern for us, because there are people who, buy books that they can, access on an e-reader that they wouldn't necessarily keep. but there are books then that they keep that they want in a library. So there are lots, I would say a large percentage of customers who keep a physical library and an electronic library. So, that was something I worried lots about for no reason. Not for no reason, but that was a lesser concern. Gosh, I don't even remember when it started. I don't know if you all know Louis Copt, but he and I were having a conversation at some event, and he said, I have the entire encyclopedia on my phone. And I thought, ugh. I remember, thinking, I am not happy for you. I have all the works of Shakespeare on my phone, and yet I've made my peace with that part of the way people maintain their libraries. The book is a very old thing, and I don't see it going anywhere for a while. It's a very simple and yet perfect thing that serves a purpose. Yeah. So interesting. Thanks for that question. Interesting.
Yeah. Any other questions? The only other thing that I wanted to mention, Kelly, are there any upcoming events or speakers or anything you want to mention? Take a chance for a little plug here. Have anything coming up shortly?
Well, yeah, one that comes to mind of a local interest is Carl Ramberg, who's a local stonemason, has written a memoir about, and I'm going to briefly look up I've forgotten the title here for a second. Just one second here. So he has written his memoir about being a stonemason. And so let me see when he's going to be reading. I believe it's sometime in May, but he'll be at the Cider Gallery. Why is that not showing up? Just one second. You talk amongst yourselves.
This is an unprepared question, so I caught her off
Yeah,
guard.
well, it's a good question. I mean, it's something I'm just do, and this is one of the things that I have to do as a bookseller. When somebody comes in the store and says, there is a book, I think the cover was blue, and it had something to do with whales. And so we collect any little word and start doing a Google search. We love Google.
Yeah.
All right.
The librarians are kind of the same thing.
Exactly. You
I read
pretend
a
that
book, it was in a green cover and it was about grass. And you
yes,
don't
and you
find
pretend you know what you're talking about, and then you amaze people.
Yeah.
So yes, it's called Stone Diary, by Carl Ramberg, Confessions of a Hard Hewer. So that, well, I found the title, there we go, on Lawrence Times, but Cider Gallery has it here. There we go. So it is April 25th, which is a Thursday evening, 7 to 9 at the Cider Gallery. Carl will read from his book that I just told you about, and there will be a cash bar, and there will be that's Final Friday art weekend as well, so people will see a new exhibition there. So yeah, so that's a good one. And then Dennis Domer, who was the publisher of Embattled Lawrence 2, which was a major undertaking for the entire community, really, and hit a roadblock with printing, and then had to go into the second printing, and but there have been multiple events around it, and there will be an interesting one on Tuesday, April 23rd. He calls that event Rockin' and Rollin' in the East Bottoms.
Right.
Most people don't realize that Lawrence had a vibrant red light district in East Lawrence.
And for all of you, that is listed in the library's calendar online.
Yes,
And they
yeah,
have
so
marked
it
it
will be
under,
at the library, yeah.
yeah, they have marked it under retirees. So if you're looking at the regular library calendar with our events, that event is also in there as well. So you
Yeah,
can
so
see that details.
that's one that's really, I would say, a really good one to go to. And then we have Indie Bookstore Day. Now that's another thing, that Independent Bookseller Day is a big day for us. We often have prizes, and you can spin a prize wheel. We often have, we're going to probably have a new t-shirt design. We always have limited edition t-shirts and sweatshirts, so there will be a new one to celebrate Independent Bookstore Day. And then that morning we'll have a local children's author, Lindsay Metcalf, and she'll have a kids story time in the morning. Her new book is Outdoor Farm, Indoor Farm, and she'll be signing those books. So that will be fun. And while you're in the store, you can take advantage of all the hubbub and hoopla going on with Indie Bookstore Day. So those are some good events coming up. We just had the event with Sarah Paretsky with the library, that was a major event and lovely for us, since she's, a Lawrence native and such local connections. So yeah.
Yeah. The one event that I always remember is when Colson Whitehead came here, and
Oh my gosh,
he
yeah.
was, by that time he was pretty famous with a lot of awards and on to his 6th or 7th book or whatever. And it was really amazing to get him. But that was my discovery moment. And, it took me, I'm a very slow reader, but one after the other, immediately I read every book he wrote.
Oh yeah.
They were just so enthralling. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was great. And I wouldn't really have known that much about him had he not been, had not been here.
And
So
those of you interested in Sarah Smarsh, I just remembered she has a book in the works that will be released sometime in 24, 25. And she'll be reading again locally. Probably we're probably too small for her. Oh, and I just see we got another question. Independent Bookseller Day is Saturday, April 27th. And the children's event starts at 10 a.m. So she'll be reading from her book to the little people and signing. So that will be fun. Yes. So, yeah, people like Colson Whitehead, it's just such an honor to be able to host people who are such good thinkers and writers. And it's amazing for us to to rub shoulders with them. Yeah, it's a wonderful thing.
yeah, certainly is. All right, we have time for a few more questions if you have them. I'm not going to keep Kelly, just to fill up the time, but if you have any more questions. If
And
not, go ahead. I'm sorry.
anytime, no, go ahead.
No, finish, please.
Yeah, anytime you want recommendations, we love to give recommendations. So a good way to do that is to kind of read some of our shelf talkers, and if you notice somebody who recommended something you like, then you can say, where's Nancy, or where's Adela, or yeah.
I
Katie,
noticed,
go
yeah,
ahead.
I noticed in the movie, it seemed like he was having a certain way that he wanted to arrange the books that he, wanted people to see. And do you have any kind of process that you use, or and you know, are there certain times where you feel like, okay, now it's time I have to rearrange these to catch people's attention better, or
Yes.
what goes
He-
on with that?
What an amazing person. I wish I could meet this man. He just was sort of a Renaissance man, a poet, a philosopher. Um, and yes, we've often joked that as soon as you move a book around in the store, it may have been there for years. If you move it to a different place or put it in a new book stand, it sells immediately. So one of the things in the design of the new store, Danny decided that there should be little nooks, and they each have a light that we can turn on to highlight things. We have about 6 of these little nooks. And we, as employees, we are encouraged to think up displays. So we think of themes and just pull books from various areas that suit those themes. And that's a good way to get people to stop and think about, why did they put these here? For example, I had a coworker just recently wrote a sign that said, it's time to take flight. So everything in the section had something to do with flight, or either flights of fancy or literal flight. And so, yes, that's one of the things that as booksellers, we have the opportunity to do. Some of us are better at it than others, but it gives us a way to highlight books and curate them in ways that that causes people to think of them outside of their little box, their little genre box. Yes. I hope that answered your question.
Okay. Any other questions before we let her go? Well, I have to tell you, one thing I will ask of all of you before we do conclude is, what did you think of the movie? So either by a raise of hand of 1 to 5, or if you want to say anything about it, what did you think of the movie? Yeah. 4s and 5s. That's good. I mean, that's in fact more 5s than I've seen for a while in some of the movies. So I got to start picking better movies. But yeah, I thought it was really good, and I think a lot of it was because of him. You know, you're absolutely right, Kelly. He's kind of a character you'd really love to meet. You'd like to go in that store and sit down and chat with him for half an hour. You're a
The
really
only
interesting guy.
The only trouble I had was sometimes I couldn't tell. There seemed to be times when there were people in the store, and it was not COVID time. And then but there was a whole theme about the trouble they had during COVID and how he did that.
I would share that, Kay. I think that the editing might have been kind of his stream of consciousness more than anything chronologically.
Yeah, okay.
Which kind of fit, but at the same time, it did get very confusing where he was going back and forth. And sometimes it was one of his daughters in there, and you understood it during COVID, and sometimes it was somebody else. And yeah, that part was a little confusing, but he was such an interesting guy that I don't think it took too much away. For me, it didn't take too much away, but I did get lost every now and then. So, all right, we're gonna let Kelly go. Kelly, thank you very much. It was really great having you. We really all appreciate it. And we also appreciate the store in town. So please, for you and for the staff and for Danny, our thanks for that. For the rest of you, we'll tie it up. Just a reminder, next week we have 7 events in 5 days. So hopefully I'll see some of you at some of those events. Kelly, we do have a birding event coming up. You know, maybe we can sneak in an extra person if you're free or whatever. I'll send you the information. We'll
Please
be
do,
doing
yeah.
a bird watch out at the KU field
The field
station.
station. The Fitch?
with Wendy Holman. So.
Oh, right. Yes,
I
exactly.
I will send you the information if you are able to get away and join us for that.
And there also is, if I can give a plug for the
Please.
Lawrence Bird Alliance and the Lawrence Public Library, we call it the big event, the big birding event. So look for that on your library calendar and the Lawrence Bird Alliance calendar. For those of you who aren't aware, Jayhawk Audubon is now Lawrence Bird Alliance. So that's a big event for birders. Yeah, such a good one. We divide the huge crowd into groups, and I have my fingers in many pies.
As you should. All right. Thank you very much, folks. We really appreciate it. We'll see you at the next event. Hopefully it'll be before next month with our next dessert and a movie, but we have plenty of stuff for you to join. So hopefully we'll see you all then. Until then, have a great evening. Thanks again, Kelly. Really appreciate seeing you all. All right. Good night,
Good night.
folks.